It's the dawn of a new day. A DartCraft day. Hello, I'm Blue Dart, and you may or may not have seen my videos. Probably not. That is irrelevant. Now let's get right into it. The very first thing you can do with this mod, take some wood planks, an iron ingot, and paper to make yourself a clipboard. Now this is probably the single most useful thing from my mod, and it's also the first thing you could possibly make, so here it is. Right-click this thing and you'll see a little crafting interface in here. Now this is really nice because you can shift-click things into it, or out of it, just conveniently, as a nice portable crafting table. But what you may not have expected is you can actually close it and reopen it, and all the stuff is still on there, because it's a clipboard. I mean, come on. Now this clipboard has several other features, probably the most useful of which is this little down arrow here. Click it and everything goes into your inventory and out of the clipboard. That's nice, right? But there are still two other buttons. Now let's say I wanted to make myself a tree tap. You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to be able to have this here, close it, break my tree tap, reopen it, and make a new one. Now I could just manually make these even, or I could come up to this button right here and click it. The balance button balances everything in this inventory, and this will work with any type of item. So I could actually pull myself out a tree tap, break it, and pull out another one. Anyway, another neat feature is if you put items into here, and then you press this circular button, it will take the first two items and arrange them circularly, and also balance them evenly. This is a way to make yourself a quick chest or a quick furnace, and it can even be used with two different types of items. Let's say I wanted stone bricks and wooden planks. Click them, and it will distribute them, staggering them evenly. And there's one more thing to this, what I'm calling the Smart Distribution button. You can actually press it again, and it will move everything forward by one slot in a circular pattern. So this would be a really nice and easy way to make yourself some bog earth early on in the game before you can automate it. Or really, much of anything. Now, there is one more feature I just recently added to this clipboard. If you happen to have any installed, and you look up the recipe of something, say a wooden pickaxe, and press the question mark button, it'll actually overlay it behind it. You could then place the items in it and make that item. Now the next time you close and reopen the clipboard, the overlay will be gone, so it won't stick there indefinitely. Now DartCraft adds one and only one type of ore to the game, something called power ore. Power ore looks bit magical, has a sort of a glow to it, and you'll notice it's actually changing texture just a little bit, a slight animated texture. If I make it nighttime, you can also see that it has a slight glow to it in certain parts, kind of like the DartCraft or DartCraft ores. I suppose this is becoming a new standard for ores now. Anyway, you just mine this thing up, and you can mine it up with a stone pick, and it'll give you things called force gems, 2 to 4 of them, and this is also affected by fortune. Now it's also of note that there is a nether variety you can find, of course, in the nether. It's actually pretty common in the nether, so if you find yourself really needing some force gems, you know, just brave the nether and look around, because it's relatively common there. Of course, it's also very dangerous. Now this mod's crafting recipes are pretty intuitive because it can use a lot of different forge ores. By default, and if you only have DartCraft installed with no other mods, force gems and 2 iron ingots can be combined to make 2 force ingots. But if you have mods that add bronze, you can do the same with bronze. And refined iron will actually give you an additional ingot, as well as silver. So you can actually use a varied type of metals, depending on what mods you have installed. I highly recommend using factorization silver, as factorization silver will spawn a great deal of silver in one area, and generally you'll have a lot of extra silver, and you can use your silver ingots to make the force ingots, seeing as a lot of other mods require the iron or the bronze for other things. Okay, so now I have some force ingots, so what do I do with these things? Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is to take one of them, turn them into force nuggets. Now I'm going to take a force nugget, a stick, and a force ingot to make a force rod. And you can see from this thing, it's creating it at a very low durability. That's on purpose, and there's a way to get a full durability one. But these things are kind of cool, because they're actually able to convert certain blocks and objects in the world into other ones. Most notably is, probably the very first thing you'll want to do is to make a sapling, and then use your force rod, just right-click it, to convert it into a force sapling. Now, you could wait for this thing to grow. It'll grow at a relatively normal rate, or you could just bone meal it up, and boom! You have yourself your first force tree. Now you'll notice there are some neat Disney effects on this tree, that's great. And you can punch the leaves off, just like a normal tree, and what you want to do is harvest this thing. Any standard axe will do. And you get yourself some force logs. These things are basically a replacement for any type of vanilla log. And the neat thing about these is they can be turned into force sticks, among other things, which I'm going to need some of, because these force sticks are actually needed to make my own custom types of tools. The regular sticks just won't do. So if we try and make another force rod, using a force stick, you notice that it comes with no damage. So even though we have to make our first one with a regular stick, we can quickly get ourselves a more lasting force rod. Which is nice, because the force rod only actually has 50 uses. Anyway, I got myself a few more saplings from that tree, and it also actually dropped some force nuggets, which is what those leaves occasionally drop. And if you want, you could take those leaves with a pair of shears and use them for decoration. In fact, these force logs make some pretty good decoration. You see, I already built a small house with them. This is what the logs look like, and you can actually make planks out of them on a 1:4 ratio, just like vanilla would. And of course, should you happen to have thermal expansion installed, you could also use the sawmill to turn them into a few more. Now there's one more thing you can do with these force logs. You can actually smelt them into something called the golden power source. Oh wait, it's its source. Well anyway, this is basically a nice little coal replacement. It's a bit more potent, you can see. It'll actually smelt 10 things instead of 8. And you can also use them to make a few more torches than normal coal. It's actually a pretty viable resource to get some force trees and then start burning them in a generator for industrial craft power if you want to. Alright, enough screwing around. Now that we have force ingots and force sticks, we can start making some real tools. Many tools are available. You've got the axe, you've got the pickaxe, you've got the shovel, the sword, and probably my personal favorite, the shears. That's right, shears. Now, these shears that can be made very early on actually have some very interesting properties to them just inherently. Now, I can just take these guys to sheep, and I'll get the normal 1 to 3 pieces of wool for each sheep. Hi, sheep. Or I can use them specially on chickens. And he dropped a feather. Oh, good lord. I just shoot a chicken. That's right. And you also seem to scare an egg out of them every time, and they run around. They're not too happy. But, don't worry. It's actually pretty humane. They'll actually grow back their feathers after a little while, and they'll just eat a piece of grass, sort of like sheep do. And there he goes. So this is a nice, easier way to get yourself some feathers without having to breed tons of chickens. I'd still recommend breeding your chickens, though, because then you can come in here and harvest a good amount of feathers. And I just got 17 from here, and this is only a few, and they want them back. Oh, that's great. They want their feathers back. I forgot I did that. Now, there's one more function to these shears, and you may have already guessed it, and if you did, you're a very sick person, but you can use them in cows, too. And this is a very, very useful way to get leather right early in the game. Or even later in the game, too. Now, these cows are obviously very angry sounding, as they should be, because I sheared their skin off. But don't worry, they'll actually eat grass too, and mystically regrow their skin. I don't know how. You know what, though? I don't really care, because I've always wanted a way to get leather. A lot easier than... And now they want it back. No. I'm done with you guys, okay? No. None of that junk. So DartCraft adds a pretty easy way to get both feathers and leather pretty cheaply without having to kill tons and tons of animals. And that's nice because you can use this without making any of the other stuff if you really wanted to. But believe you me, there are some really sweet upgrades you can make to these things. Now to start making upgrades in DartCraft, you're going to need to get yourself a block of obsidian. Just place it down somewhere. Take a force rod and right click them. And you now have a force infuser. If you right click this thing, this GUI is pretty daunting. But if you look over here on the tabs on the side, you can actually right click them. Now these tabs are brought to you by Thermal Expansion's publicly available tab API that he basically just gives out and says you can use this. So I'm using it and thank you. So if you right click on this, you'll see there's an error tab that says you'll need an upgrade tome in the top leftmost slot to get anything useful done. That's nice. And he's right, I'm actually going to need something called an upgrade tome. For this next part, you'll need a book, and you actually have to drop the item into the world and right-click its approximate location with the force rod. It will then be morphed into something called a force tome, and this is the only way to get a force tome. Now, this force tome I'm going to need to turn into an upgrade tome. But to do that, I'm going to have to actually use this thing, which requires the thing what I'm making. My head hurts. Alright, let's step back for a moment. That sounds a little confusing. Let's see what this info tab has to say to me. It says, Force is the one upgrade that can be performed without an upgrade tome already in the infuser. Oh, that's good news, which means I can place this force tome in the center slot, which is the item to be upgraded. And then I can place something that gives force? Oh, look at this. If you mouse over items in your inventory inside this GUI, it will actually say, as a secondary yellow tooltip, what the name of the upgrade it gives. Now, you can just shift-click things in here, and it will apparently upgrade this with force. Unfortunately, I can't use this yet, because to upgrade anything in the force infuser, you need both liquid force and DartCraft energy. Well, the easiest way to get liquid force is actually just to manually place some force gems in there. It'll suck them up and turn them into one bucket of liquid force apiece. Now, for the DartCraft energy, you could really go with any type of engine you want. But, just in case you don't have DartCraft installed, why would you not have DartCraft installed? You can actually make something called a force engine. They're made with the standard DartCraft and engine recipe with force ingots and force gears, which, as you might expect, are force ingots around a stone gear. Now, if you don't have DartCraft installed, it's force ingots around an iron ingot, as these engines will work without DartCraft. Now, let's take a short detour to talk about force engines. As you can see, I have several set up out here using some thermal expansion conduits, going to an empty redstone energy cell. Now, if I right-click on this guy, you can see that it has 2 tanks and 2 inventory spots. As you can see, there's some tabs on the right. It tells you the output and something called throttle. Now, as you might think, a force engine can actually run on force gems. Place them in the leftmost slot, and the tank gets filled. Now, if I wanted to, I could simply put a redstone signal on this guy, and he will start running. Start using that liquid force. It'll take about 60,000 game ticks for this to use 1 bucket. And it's outputting at 4 Minecraft joules per tick with a throttle of none. As you may have guessed, the throttle comes from this secondary tank. There's several different throttle liquids, the easiest of which to get is water. Place any type of liquid container in here containing water, or literally pump in water to this, and it'll start using it rather quickly as a throttle. It's throttling at 2, and doubling the output of this engine to 8. So you can literally double the output of this just by pumping in water. And the nice thing about this is the force engine will never explode. Or die of loneliness, okay? So unlike a combustion engine, you don't have to worry about these things exploding. So 8 Minecraft joules per tick, that's not bad. And if we didn't have BuildCraft installed, we could just shove one of these next to our infuser and just power it that way. Now, something nice about these engines is you can turn them off and they will instantly turn off. And you can turn them back on and they will instantly turn back on. There is no cooling period. The force engines can also run on lava, and the default output for that is half a Minecraft joule, or of course, 1 Minecraft joule with water. It can also run on BuildCraft oil for 1.5 Minecraft joules, or 3 with water, and most notably, it can also run on BuildCraft fuel at 3 Minecraft joules, or 6 Minecraft joules with water. So yes, this is effectively a combustion engine replacement that can also use liquid force. And last but not least, for now, is it can also run... No, it can't. It crashes. Holy... Okay, try this again. You can also put biofuel in here. There you go, that worked. And run that at 2.5 Minecraft joules per tick, or of course 5 with water. Now another thing you can do is you can actually... If you don't like opening the interface of this, you can actually just right-click with a liquid container that will go in this inventory, and it'll just put it in there for you. It's actually something I put in when I was debugging it, and then I left it in. Now another thing you can do is just get yourself some cans, or capsules, from forestry. Come up to a cow or a cold cow, and right-click them, and it'll actually take one of those, and it'll fill it up with milk. So you can just directly milk these guys now with the forestry cans and capsules if you want. And it works with regular capsules and refractory capsules as well. Now, the nice thing about these capsules is I can put them in these engines, and it will actually throttle it at 2.5 instead of 2. So you can actually get a bit more out of the inputs if you use milk in this way. You can get 3.75 Minecraft joules out of oil. You can even get 7.5 Minecraft joules out of fuel, or 6.5 out of biofuel. So that's a nice little addition I just decided to add. Now there is one more throttle of this thing that's more potent than milk even. And it is a forestry liquid that is actually something that's very difficult to get. And be warned, it will take you a while. But just to be clear, it will actually double the output of those engines. Anyway, now that I'm done explaining that, I'm just gonna put some liquid in this guy. I'm just gonna activate this engine here, and it's going to pump out 10 Minecraft joules per tick into this. Alright, so now that this thing has its liquid and its energy, this little button down here is now clickable. It says go, and if I click it, it activates it, it starts the process, and there it goes. It upgraded this force tome into an upgrade tome that's tier 1. And I can actually put that in the top left here, and you can see that I have unlocked an additional slot, and that error message over here has gone away. Also, you can visibly see that this thing houses a book. Take it out, and it also disappears. Now, looking at this upgrade tome, if we shift mouse over it, it'll show some additional details. It says 0 force points and next tier, 96. Now, what we want to do is prepare some force tools. We can only put force tools in here. And we can also only put materials in here that are a valid upgrade material. For convenience sake, anything that can be clicked into these areas can also be shift-clicked. As you can see, the upgrade will be shown on the item itself in a yellow tooltip, as we've seen before. So I filled my inventory with various types of upgrade materials. Most of these are from vanilla Minecraft. As you can see, in a third tooltip on these items, it says the tier that is required to be able to use these upgrades. I can't even place them inside the infuser if the tome does not have a high enough tier to accommodate the upgrade. And as you can see, some of these, like Sturdy from Obsidian, is a pretty high tier upgrade. Now something I can use right away on a pickaxe is heat. Of course, that's not an option if I take the tome out, because it's a tier 1 upgrade, and it even forced the item out into the world. But I can throw heat on this right away, and it looks like I can also throw speed on as well. So clicking this, it'll start to go. It'll take a little while. This thing actually runs at 5 Minecraft joules per tick on this. but it stores everything internally, up to 25,000 Minecraft jewels. And what that gave me was a heat pickaxe with speed 1. It also gave my upgrade tome a good amount of points, 60 to be exact. Now, you're not going to get that much from every upgrade, but because this is the first time this upgrade tome has seen both the heat and the speed upgrade, it received an additional 25 points from those. Now, the speed upgrade on a pick is obviously just going to make it mine a little bit faster, but the heat upgrade is going to smelt whatever the block would drop. In this case, the iron ore drops itself, which then smelts into 1 iron ingot. Of course, this becomes incredibly inefficient if you have mods such as DartCraft installed. But keep in mind, it'll also work on cobblestone to get you some stone. Now, something to note is the pickaxe actually takes additional durability damage if it has the heat upgrade on it, but also something to keep in mind, if you hold shift, it won't smelt it, and won't use the additional durability. Without a really powerful tome, it's difficult to make anything too useful, but something you can also make right out of the bat for axes is lumberjack. Now, this requires a force log, no other type will do. And as you can see, it actually does visually spawn some particles and make a sound when it's running, and then a special little graphic to let you know that it's finished. That gives me a force axe with lumberjack and speed 1. And this upgrade tome is almost to the next tier. Now let's go take this axe to this tree. You notice it'll actually go at leaves very quickly, especially with the speed upgrade on it. And it actually isn't meant to use durability on leaves, although it does look like it visually does. Now, you can break wood normally with this, and it'll just break it. Or, you could break something that's made out of wood, and it will go straight up and break as many blocks as are made out of wood instantly, using additional durability per each block. You could take out a few jungle trees with this, and then the axe would be gone. Now, I want to put heat on this sword, and you'll notice that there are actually a few materials that will imbue heat. Charcoal coal, or blaze powder, is one of them, and blaze powder is actually a material that's rarer, and as such it will give you a few bonus points when using it as an upgrade material. Now, I've put speed in here on the sword, and it grayed this button out. I cannot upgrade a force sword with speed, therefore the button has grayed itself out. However, I can put a claw in here and let that go. So I'm going to take this sword, and it seems to have upgraded my tome to tier 2, and therefore unlocked another space. That's pretty sweet. Now, I know you're wondering where I got that claw from, and that's because it's a DartCraft item, and I got it from a vanilla entity. Turns out, if you kill a bat, it'll drop a claw. Sometimes 2. So now, you'll want to go kill all the bats you can find, because that's the only way to get sharpness on your sword. Now, before I get too much into these other upgrades, I want to talk about one of the more fundamental features of DartCraft. I'm going to take a chest, some force ingots, some leather, and quickly assemble myself something called a force pack. Now, I pull this thing out, put it on my hotbar, I right-click it, and it's actually a backpack that can hold up to 8 items. The only thing it can't hold is force packs. It will also not hold ender pouches or forestry backpacks by default, but that is configurable. Now, you can shift mouse over it and see that it has 7 out of 8 slots full. And you can just carry this 8-slot backpack around with you, and right-click it at any time, pull something out. However, you can also shift right-click. It'll bring up this interface, where you can rename it to, say, the tool satchel, and even recolor it one of several colors by left or right-clicking in this little area down here. Once you've got the name and the color you want, click Save. It's now a blue force pack called Tool Satchel. Pretty cool, right? Although, that's not all. Depending on what tier your upgrade tome is at, you can actually upgrade this, one at a time, with 8 additional slots. This now has 16 slots in it, and all the items are still in there. That's pretty cool. Looks like I can upgrade it another time. It now has 24 slots. And it looks like, at tier 2, that's all the more I can upgrade this thing. Now, let's skip ahead, because this is a spotlight and not a let's play. there are a few commands that I added in DartCraft for debug purposes. Alright, I now have myself an upgrade tome tier 7. So, with a mastered upgrade tome, all 8 slots are available, and every single upgrade is usable. So I'm going to take another force pack, and this one I didn't name or put anything in it. I'm going to upgrade it with an ender pearl. Now the ender pearl's a pretty high tier upgrade, so it's going to take a little while. It's also pretty much chewing through the buildcraft energy. And I now have myself an ender pack. The ender pack, when you right click it, goes to your vanilla ender chest, and you can put absolutely anything in here. Even force packs. Backception! And of course, if you should happen to die, or this pack should happen to fall into lava, you'll be fine because it's your vanilla ender chest inventory. To be continued.